They said I was a failure. They were wrong. Hey everyone, what's up? I'm Alex, and yeah, as you can probably guess from the title, my life's been a roller coaster, a freakin' wild ride. I'm 28 now, been grinding at this whole entrepreneur thing, this startup hustle, for about 6 years now, and let me tell you, those low points. Man, they were soul-crushing. But damn, they made the highs feel unreal. Like catapulting from the absolute depths of despair right into freakin' orbit. I'm talking full-blown, weightless, floating in space euphoria. So, let's dial it back a bit, rewind the tape, as they say. When I was around 22, freshly graduated and full of youthful, naive optimism, things were complicated, to put it mildly. I had this burning idea, this itch I needed to scratch, this vision for a startup that consumed my every waking thought. The concept was simple, elegant even, in its simplicity, an app connecting local, family-owned farmers directly to restaurants, completely bypassing the big distributors, cutting out the greedy middlemen who were often more interested in profits over the quality and conditions of its produce. Seemed like a no-brainer to me. I envisioned farm-to-table freshness accessible to everyone, supporting local businesses and promoting sustainable agriculture. A win-win. But, well, my family, they had a slightly different perspective. A perspective that involved significantly less risk and significantly more stability. My family, especially my parents, well, let's just say they're deeply rooted in tradition, in established paths, in the safety net of the familiar. My dad's a cardiologist, spent his entire adult life painstakingly saving lives, patching up hearts, the epitome of altruism and responsibility. A pillar of the community. And my mom? She's a high school history teacher, shaping young minds, instilling a love of learning, and preparing the next generation for, well, not necessarily entrepreneurship, but you get the picture. They'd always envisioned a specific, predetermined path for me, top grades in school, check, respectable and secure job, pending, maybe even following in my dad's footsteps and becoming a doctor, God, no, or perhaps a lawyer, slightly less painful, but still. Entrepreneur. Tech startup. To them, it was like I was speaking Martian. Or Klingon. Some foreign language completely incomprehensible to their logical, risk-averse brains. A waste of your potential, Alex, my dad would say, shaking his head with a mixture of disappointment and genuine concern. His brow furrowed, his eyes conveying a worry that bordered on panic. My mom, ever the diplomat, the master of gentle persuasion, would strategically suggest, why not look at internships at the hospital? Get some real-world experience. Or shadow a lawyer for a summer. See what it's really like. Subtext, see how much better it is than your crazy idea. And my older brother, Mark, the golden child, the one who actually did become a lawyer, the family's shining example of success, he'd chime in with the classic, condescending, brotherly advice, dude, you're gonna fail. Like, spectacularly. Just being honest. Saving you some time and heartache. He probably thought he was being helpful, I suppose, but his complete and utter lack of empathy, his inability to see the passion burning inside me, just made it even worse. It wasn't just annoying, it was soul-crushing, a constant undermining of my confidence. Every Sunday family dinner became a painful reminder that I was, in their eyes, a disappointment, a black sheep, the one who dared to stray from the flock. Thanksgiving. Christmas. Forget about it. It was an interrogation marathon, a relentless barrage of questions about my progress, which, let's be real, was basically zero at that point. I was working my butt off, pouring every ounce of my energy, my savings, my sanity into this thing, and all I heard was how I was messing up my life, throwing away my future. They saw me as a lost cause, plain and simple. I remember one particularly harsh Christmas. We were all gathered at my parents' meticulously decorated house, the smell of pine needles and roasted turkey filling the air, a scene of picture-perfect suburban bliss. Except, it wasn't. My dad, after a couple of glasses of vintage Cabernet Sauvignon, the good stuff, reserved for special occasions, like my intervention, pulled me aside, his face etched with concern. "Alex," he said, his voice low and serious, laced with the quiet desperation of a parent watching their child make what they perceive to be a colossal mistake, "when are you going to give up this fantasy? This pipe dream? You're a bright young man. I understand you want to be your own boss, and I respect that, but you were always meant for something more." The problem was, I genuinely, deeply, irrevocably believed in my idea. I knew it could work. I knew it could make a real difference, not just in my life, but in the lives of countless farmers and consumers. I just needed time, and maybe a little bit of encouragement, a sliver of support. But the constant negativity, the unwavering skepticism, was like a slow-acting poison, seeping into my confidence, eroding my resolve. I started doubting myself, wondering if they were right. Maybe I was being delusional, chasing a fool's errand. Maybe I should just throw in the towel, admit defeat, and go get a real job, like Mark, clocking in and out of a soulless corporate office, trading my passion for a paycheck. There was this one investor meeting that stands out in my mind, a pivotal moment where I felt that doubt, that creeping sense of inadequacy, hit me harder than ever before. I was working from a dingy, cramped co-working space at that point, sharing a desk with a guy who had a penchant for loud phone calls and microwaving fish for lunch. I somehow managed to snag an opportunity to pitch to this VC firm, a reputable firm who had previously funded some of my favorite, most successful apps. They were the big leagues, the gatekeepers of the tech world. I thought this was my shot, my golden ticket. But it just went downhill from the very start. I stumbled on my words, my carefully rehearsed pitch dissolving into a nervous, rambling mess. I was sweating profusely, my hands clammy. I could tell they'd already made up their minds before I even got to the demo, their faces betraying a mixture of boredom and thinly veiled contempt. One of the guys, a slick, impeccably dressed shark with a permanent air of superiority, the kind who probably eats startups for breakfast, stops me mid-sentence. "Son," he says, his voice dripping with condescension, "there are 100 apps doing the same thing. Competing for the same space. What makes you think you can do it better? What's your unique selling proposition?" I didn't have a good answer. Not a convincing one, anyway. I mumbled something about connecting with local markets, about supporting small businesses, but they were already tuning me out, their eyes glazed over. I left the room feeling like the biggest idiot in the world, a total failure. That car ride home, in my beat-up Honda Civic with the perpetually flashing check engine light, I seriously considered quitting right then and there. Pulling over and abandoning the whole project. But then, as I was slumped over the steering wheel in a dark parking lot, a small voice inside told me to push on. Something snapped. I was just utterly exhausted of trying to convince them, of constantly trying to justify my choices, of seeking their approval. I realized I needed to do this for myself, not for their validation. Their opinions didn't matter. Only mine did. I decided to double down, to go all in. I moved into an even smaller, more depressing apartment, which was basically a glorified closet with a bed and a hot plate. I ate even more ramen than humanly possible, becoming intimately familiar with every instant noodle flavor on the market. And I worked. I worked until my eyes burned, until my fingers ached, until I was so exhausted I could barely stand upright. I remember falling asleep at my computer more than once, my face pressed against the keyboard, waking up with indentations on my forehead and a crick in my neck. The next few months were absolutely brutal, a relentless gauntlet of challenges and setbacks. I faced rejection after rejection. Investors laughed me out of the room, their snide remarks echoing in my ears. Potential partners ghosted me, disappearing without a trace. It felt like the whole world was conspiring to tell me to quit, to give up, to admit defeat. There was Susan, a supposed marketing consultant I brought on, a smooth-talking charlatan who I could barely afford to pay, but she turned out to be a snake, a backstabbing opportunist. I had naively given her a small percentage of equity in the company, thinking she was on my team, but she basically took our client list, our carefully cultivated network, and started her own consulting firm, poaching our clients and undercutting our prices. I was devastated, feeling betrayed and foolish. But it also made me realize that the company was actually worth something, that I had built something people were willing to steal, to fight for. But I kept going. I tweaked my pitch, I refined my product, and I kept hustling, attending every networking event, cold calling potential investors, and working every avenue. Nights where I had to sleep in the office, huddled under a pile of discarded coding manuals because I missed the last train home. Days where I only had enough money for a pack of crackers, rationing them out throughout the day to stave off the hunger pains. But I was determined, fueled by a stubborn refusal to give up. Then, slowly but surely, almost imperceptibly at first, things started to change. The tide began to turn. I managed to secure a small seed investment from an angel investor, a quirky, eccentric guy who saw some potential in my vision, who recognized the fire in my eyes. A friend of a friend who happened to be a retired tech executive, a seasoned veteran who had made his fortune in the dot-com boom and was now looking to give back, to mentor the next generation of entrepreneurs. He believed in my concept, in my passion, and he gave me the resources, the financial runway, I needed to kick things into high gear. We launched the app, polished and redesigned, and people loved it. Restaurants started signing up, drawn in by the promise of fresh, local produce and direct access to farmers. Farmers started signing up, eager to bypass the exploitative distributors and earn a fair price for their goods. The platform started growing, gaining momentum, attracting more users. It was like a snowball effect. The more users we got, the more valuable the platform became. The more organic the reach, the more unstoppable the growth. And then, the offers started coming in. Bigger companies, established players in the food industry, wanted to buy us, to acquire our technology, to integrate our platform into their existing infrastructure. At first, I wasn't interested. This was my baby, my creation. I had put my heart, my soul, my blood, sweat, and tears into it. But then, one offer came along that was simply too good to refuse. A $10 million offer. Yeah, $10 million. Suddenly, the failure, the lost cause, was worth a hell of a lot of money. It felt surreal, like I was living someone else's life, like I had stepped into some alternate reality. All those sleepless nights, all those rejections, all that ramen, it had all paid off. The first thing I did was call my parents. It was awkward, to say the least. They were shocked, of course, completely dumbfounded. But there was also a hint of pride in their voices, a glimmer of something that resembled respect. They still didn't quite understand what I did, what this app even was, but they understood the money. And that, I guess, was enough. My dad even made a joke about finally understanding why I was so obsessed with my computer, why I was always glued to my screen. Look, this isn't about proving my family wrong. It's about proving myself right. It's about believing in your vision, even when everyone else doubts you, even when the odds are stacked against you. It's about never giving up, never surrendering, even when things get tough. And trust me, they will get tough. There will be times when you feel like you're banging your head against a brick wall, when you're ready to just throw in the towel, to walk away from it all. But those are the moments that define you, those are the moments that separate the dreamers from the doers. There were even moments I had meticulously planned what I would say to my family after the sale went through, crafting the perfect speech, rehearsing every word in front of the mirror. I had imagined a triumphant speech, a moment of vindication, a glorious opportunity to rub their noses in my success. But when it actually happened, when the money hit my bank account, all I felt was a profound sense of relief. I didn't need to gloat. I didn't need to rub it in their faces. I had already won. My victory was silent. My family eventually came around, slowly realizing that my tenacity, my unwavering belief in my vision, had ultimately led to success, to something tangible, something they were all now comfortable with, something they could finally understand. The fact that I didn't need to lord it over them actually made them respect me even more. But, ultimately, it was all for me. So, if you're out there chasing your dreams, and you're facing rejection, and you're feeling like a failure, just remember my story. Remember that even the people who love you the most, the people who are closest to you, can sometimes miss your potential, can sometimes underestimate your capabilities. Don't let their doubt define you. Don't let their limitations become your own. Let your own belief in yourself be your driving force, your guiding star, your unwavering source of motivation. There will always be naysayers, people who try to bring you down, people who try to crush your spirit. But you can't let them get to you. You have to stay focused on your goals, on your vision, and keep pushing forward, keep striving, keep believing. And hey, if a failure, like me, a college dropout with a crazy idea and a whole lot of ramen, can sell a startup for $10 million, imagine what you can do. Now get out there and make it happen. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell for more stories of revenge, redemption, and entrepreneurial badassery. Peace out.